For 12 years, everyone knew Eleanor Hayes as the sweet flower shop owner on Maple Avenue. She arranged bouquets for weddings, comforted grieving families with funeral arrangements, and always had a warm smile for her customers. Nobody questioned why a 55-year-old woman chose to live alone above her shop or why she never talked about her past. Until the day two rival crime families decided to settle their differences right outside her store, and Eleanor had to choose between staying hidden or using the 25 years of CIA training that had been dormant since her retirement. Welcome to True Human Tales. Before we continue this powerful story of hidden identity, dangerous secrets, and a woman who traded espionage for gardening, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who serve in shadows we never see. Eleanor's flower boutique sat like a bright jewel on Maple Avenue, its cheerful window boxes contrasting the aging storefronts around it. Inside, the air was thick with roses, lilies, and eucalyptus, while classical music played softly from hidden speakers. Eleanor Hayes moved through her domain with practiced grace. At 55, she was still strikingly beautiful, with silver-streaked auburn hair and green eyes that noticed everything. Her hands arranged a bridal bouquet with artistic precision. "Mrs. Patterson," Eleanor called to her customer, "I've added baby's breath to symbolize everlasting love, and these white roses represent new beginnings." The elderly woman smiled warmly. "Eleanor, you always know exactly what people need. I don't know what this town would do without you." Eleanor's smile was genuine, but something flickered behind her eyes, a shadow of another life. For 12 years, Eleanor had cultivated more than flowers in Willowbrook. She had cultivated a new identity. What the town didn't know was that Eleanor Hayes had been Agent Sofia Volkov, one of the CIA's most effective operatives. For 25 years, she had infiltrated criminal organizations, eliminated threats that would never appear in newspapers. Eleanor's flower shop wasn't just a business, it was perfect cover for someone who needed to disappear. Who would suspect a woman arranging daisies of having dismantled arms trafficking networks? The bell chimed as Mrs. Patterson left. Eleanor returned to preparing funeral arrangements for the Benedetti family. As she worked, her trained eye noticed the same black sedan had driven past 3 times in the last hour. Eleanor's hands never paused, but her awareness had shifted into a mode she hadn't accessed in over a decade. License plate memorized, occupant count assessed, old habits from a life that was supposed to be over. She told herself it was nothing. Willowbrook was peaceful, where the biggest crime was, teenagers spray painting the water tower. Eleanor had chosen this place because nothing happened here. But as she arranged white lilies for the Benedetti funeral, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that her past was catching up. The next morning brought unusual activity to Maple Avenue. Eleanor noticed it immediately as she arranged her sidewalk displays. Too many expensive cars for a Tuesday morning, too many unfamiliar faces wearing suits in a town where most people dressed casual, and too many men with the bearing that came from carrying concealed weapons. Eleanor continued her routine, but her situational awareness was running at levels she hadn't used since CIA days. Through peripheral vision, she tracked at least 8 individuals who didn't belong. 2 groups, she realized, different cars, different styles, but both maintaining surveillance positions. Eleanor had seen this setup before, opposing criminal organizations sizing each other up before conflict. "Good morning, Eleanor," called Janet Morrison, the bakery owner next door. "Busy morning?" "Always," Eleanor replied with her warm smile, while mentally cataloging tactical positions around them. "How's business?" "Can't complain, though I noticed some new faces in town. Maybe tourists?" Eleanor doubted it. These weren't tourists. The bulges under jackets, the positioning for quick exits, the surveillance techniques, these were soldiers in an undeclared war. At 11:30 a.m., Eleanor's fears were confirmed. Vincent Torino walked in. Eleanor recognized him immediately, though she hadn't seen him in 15 years. Vincent was a capo in the Torino crime family, one of the East Coast's most powerful syndicates, someone she had been tasked to eliminate during her CIA days. "Good morning," Vincent said, his voice carrying the Brooklyn accent she remembered. "I'd like a large arrangement, something impressive." Eleanor's hands remained steady as she reached for her order pad, but every instinct screamed danger. Vincent shouldn't be here. He shouldn't know where she was. "What's the occasion?" Eleanor asked in her gentlest florist voice. "A funeral," Vincent replied, his dark eyes studying her face carefully. "Someone very important died recently. I want to make sure they get the send-off they deserve." Eleanor nodded professionally. "I'm very sorry for your loss. What kind of arrangement were you thinking?" "Something that says goodbye to the past," Vincent said meaningfully, "and hello to new possibilities." The conversation was layered with implications beyond flowers. Eleanor realized she was being tested. Vincent suspected who she was, but wasn't certain. Her response would determine whether her cover held or 12 years of retirement ended violently. "I understand completely," Eleanor said, maintaining perfect composure. "Loss is always difficult, but it can also open doors to growth. Let me show you some options." She led Vincent to her premium arrangement display, buying time to think. Vincent Torino didn't make social calls. If he was here, something big was happening. If he was in her shop, her life was in danger. At 2:47 p.m., the war erupted. Eleanor was helping a young mother choose flowers for her daughter's birthday when the first shots rang out. Through her shop windows, she could see muzzle flashes as two groups of armed men engaged in running firefight down Maple Avenue. The young mother screamed and dove behind the counter, clutching her toddler. Eleanor's training kicked in immediately, 25 years of CIA conditioning that turned her from shopkeeper to operative in milliseconds. "Stay down," Eleanor commanded, her voice carrying authority that made the woman obey instantly. "Keep your daughter quiet and don't move until I tell you." Eleanor moved to her register and pressed a hidden button that locked her shop's reinforced door, a security measure she'd installed years ago that most people assumed was for robbery protection. It was designed to withstand much more serious threats. Through her front window, Eleanor could see the battle clearly. Torino family soldiers were positioned behind parked cars, exchanging fire with what appeared to be members of the rival Castellano organization. Innocent civilians were caught in crossfire. Janet from the bakery was trapped behind a mailbox, and elderly Mr. Chen was pinned down behind his delivery truck. Eleanor faced a choice that would define whether Sofia Volkov was truly dead or merely sleeping. She chose to wake up. Moving with precision that belonged in an action movie, Eleanor accessed a hidden compartment behind her flower cooler. Inside was equipment no legitimate florist would need: tactical radio, encrypted phone, and in Sig Sauer P226 she had hoped never to touch again. "This is Nightingale requesting immediate federal response," Eleanor spoke into the encrypted phone, using a code name that hadn't been activated in 12 years. "Multiple hostile organizations engaging civilian area. Pattern suggests organized crime territorial dispute." The response was immediate. "Nightingale, this is Control. Stand by for tactical support. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes was a lifetime when innocent people were dying outside her door. Eleanor made the decision that ended her retirement permanently. What happened next was a masterclass in urban combat from someone who had spent decades perfecting controlled violence. Eleanor Hayes, mild-mannered florist, ceased to exist. In her place stood Sofia Volkov, one of the CIA's most lethal operatives. Eleanor's flower shop transformed from retail space to tactical command center. Using strategically placed mirrors, she had complete visual coverage of the street battle. Her knowledge of Willowbrook's layout gave her advantages that neither crime family possessed. Through her tactical radio, Eleanor began coordinating with responding federal agents while managing the immediate threat. Her voice was calm, professional, utterly unlike the gentle florist her customers knew. Two groups, 8 to 10 combatants each, standard small arms, positioned behind civilian vehicles, she reported. Multiple civilians pinned down. Recommend non-lethal suppression and tactical extraction. But federal response was still 10 minutes away, and Eleanor could see Janet Morrison bleeding from glass fragments. Mr. Chen appeared to be having a heart attack. Waiting for backup meant watching innocent people die. Eleanor activated a skill set she had hoped never to use again. Moving through her shop with practiced efficiency, Eleanor began what the CIA called environmental manipulation, using surroundings as weapons. The industrial sprinkler system she'd installed wasn't just for fire safety. Modified with components any florist might own, it could deploy smoke for civilian evacuation cover. Her fertilizer storage contained compounds that, when combined, could create flashbang effects that would disorient combatants without harm. Most importantly, Eleanor's 12 years of community involvement had given her something no federal agent possessed: intimate knowledge of every person at risk and motivation to protect them. "Vincent," Eleanor called out through her shop's PA system, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had negotiated with terrorists and warlords. "This is Agent Sofia Volkov, CIA. You have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw your forces before federal agents arrive." The gunfire stopped immediately. Eleanor's CIA reputation had followed her into retirement. Vincent Torino approached Eleanor's shop under a makeshift white flag, actually a white rose from the sidewalk displays. Through her reinforced door, Eleanor could see he was alone, hands visible, weapon holstered. "Sophia," Vincent said, loud enough for her to hear through the glass. "We need to talk." Eleanor activated her door's intercom system. "You have 2 minutes before federal response arrives. Talk fast." "The Castellanos aren't here for territory," Vincent said urgently. "They're here for you. Someone put a price on Agent Sofia Volkov's head. $500,000 for confirmation you're alive, $2 million for proof you're dead." Eleanor's blood chilled. Her CIA cover hadn't just been blown. Someone was actively hunting her. The peaceful retirement she'd built was over, and everyone in Willowbrook was in danger because of her past. "Who?" Eleanor demanded. "We don't know. The contract came through international channels." "But Sophia, my family isn't here to collect. We're here to warn you. You saved my nephew's life in Prague 15 years ago. The Torinos don't forget debts." Eleanor processed this information with analytical speed that had kept her alive through dozens of operations. Vincent was telling the truth. She could hear it in his voice. But that meant the Castellanos were here to kill her, willing to wage war in a civilian area. "The civilians," Eleanor said. "The Castellanos don't care about collateral damage," Vincent confirmed. "They'll burn this whole street down to get to you." Through her shop windows, Eleanor could see Castellano soldiers repositioning for a final assault. They had identified her location and were preparing to eliminate both her and anyone who might be witnesses to her existence. Eleanor made the hardest decision of her life. She stepped outside. Eleanor emerged from her flower shop wearing her floral apron over tactical gear, carrying her service weapon, and moving with the lethal grace that had made her legendary among CIA operatives. She was no longer pretending to be anyone other than who she really was. "I'm Agent Sofia Volkov," she announced to the street, her voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. "The person you're looking for. Let the civilians go and we can settle this professionally." The Castellano soldiers responded exactly as Eleanor expected, with immediate overwhelming violence directed at her position. But Eleanor had spent 25 years surviving situations where she was outnumbered and outgunned. She hadn't forgotten how to turn disadvantages into advantages. Using her knowledge of Maple Avenue, Eleanor began a running engagement that drew the Castellano forces away from civilian areas. She moved through town like a ghost, appearing and disappearing with tactical precision that left her opponents confused and desperate. Eleanor's florist shop became her fortress. She had reinforced it over the years with modifications that appeared innocent, but were actually military-grade defensive measures. When the Castellanos tried to breach her position, they discovered that the gentlewoman who arranged their mother's funeral flowers had turned her business into a tactical stronghold. The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes and 32 seconds. When federal agents arrived, they found 8 Castellano soldiers zip-tied and unconscious, no civilian casualties, and Agent Sofia Volkov sitting calmly among her flowers, cleaning soil from her fingernails as if nothing unusual had happened. The investigation revealed that the contract on Eleanor's life had been issued by an arms dealer she had exposed during her final CIA operation. He had spent 12 years tracking her down, finally locating her through facial recognition software that matched her current appearance to old surveillance footage. Eleanor's cover was permanently blown. Sofia Volkov could never again disappear into civilian life. But something unexpected happened. "Willowbrook refused to let her go, Eleanor," said Mayor Williams during an emergency town meeting. "You've been protecting this community for 12 years. We don't care what your real name is or what you did before you came here. You're family." The community rallied around their flower shop owner in ways that surprised even Eleanor. Janet Morrison organized a petition to keep her in town. Mr. Chen, recovered from his heart attack, offered to help her expand her shop. Mrs. Patterson started a fundraising campaign to support our Eleanor through whatever legal challenges she might face. Eleanor realized she had found something during her 12 years in Willowbrook that she had never possessed during her CIA career: a home worth protecting. She reopened her flower shop 3 weeks later with a new sign: Eleanor's Flowers, protecting beauty since 2011. The double meaning was lost on most customers, but Eleanor knew that some truths were best hidden in plain sight. Eleanor Hayes continued running her flower shop for 8 more years before officially retiring at 63. During that time, she became something of a local legend, not just for what happened that day on Maple Avenue, but for the way she approached every arrangement as if it might brighten someone's darkest moment. The town installed a small memorial garden next to her shop, in honor of those who serve in every season. Eleanor tended it personally, never speaking about her past but always ensuring that beauty flourished where violence had once threatened to take root. Years later, young people in Willowbrook would learn about the day their town became a battlefield and how their gentle florist revealed herself to be one of America's most elite operatives. They learned that heroes don't always announce themselves, that protection can come from the most peaceful places, and that sometimes the person arranging your wedding bouquet is also prepared to risk everything to keep your community safe. Eleanor proved that service takes many forms. Some people protect their country by carrying weapons, others by carrying secrets, and still others by carrying flowers that remind everyone why beauty is worth defending. The most important victories are often the quietest ones, not the battles that make headlines, but the ones that preserve the ordinary moments that make life worth living. Eleanor's greatest success wasn't stopping an organized crime war. It was ensuring that Willowbrook remained the kind of place where people could still believe in happy endings. Now I ask you, have you ever encountered someone whose gentle nature made you realize they were capable of extraordinary strength when it mattered most? Share their story in the comments. And if this story reminds you why we need guardians in unexpected places, subscribe to True Human Tales. We honor those who serve in every role, whether in shadows or sunlight. Some flowers have thorns for a reason,